Okay, we'll call this meeting to order, August 11th. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley.
Here.
Ms. McGuire absent. Mr. Gajewski.
Here.
Mr. Benkowski absent. Ms. Carrasco here. Mr. Weed.
Here.
Mr. Byer.
Here. Okay, next item on our agenda is agenda additions. Is there anyone that wishes to add any item that is not currently on the agenda before you? Hearing none. We move on to public comment. In the first public comment, we have you fill out a card indicating a little bit to us what you wish to talk about. You have 4 minutes to speak. And Bob, do we have cards?
We do. We have one card from Dennis Kelly, who would like to talk about a noise complaint at 103 East Park Avenue.
Okay. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Right up here, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. My complaint is about noise that is a shop vacuum that runs at Bayo's Nails and Spa. It's directly next door to my home and shares a property line with me. And they run the vacuum from anywhere, off and on intermittently, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. almost every day of the week. She takes some appointments on Sundays, so even on Sundays the vacuum will run. It's very disturbing to us. Our bedroom faces that side of her business. My home in my backyard, where we like to relax, faces that side of her business. I've taken a sound meter from work over there, and it's at the property line, 65 decibels. It's 81 decibels when it comes straight out of the machine. We did file a complaint, or called in a verbal complaint. I think at the time the code enforcement gentleman was Eric, but his name does not appear on the website. It's still Timothy Titsema is as the zoning administrator on the website. We spoke to Eric. He went over and investigated. He inquired if there was something they could do to help us with the noise, maybe move this shop vacuum that they have outside their building to the other side of the facility, something of that nature. He said they weren't going to be able to accommodate the request. And then he told me that he did not have any way to really enforce it because it wasn't around 10 p.m. at night. But when I looked up the Township Ordinance 148 Anti-Noise Ordinance, Section 2A, it says, the ordinance states, no person, firm, or corporation shall cause or create any unreasonable or improper noise or disturbance injurious to the health, peace, or quiet for any purpose other than to avoid an accident or collision. It's not any mention whatsoever of before or after a certain hour of the day. There is a mention in there that does specify sound, but that specifically relates to people who hoot and holler and make noise on the street. So I would just like to say I've also turned in a written complaint, followed up. I turned it into Ms. Carrasco, and she said there wasn't an enforcement person at that time. That's why I felt compelled to come to the public hearing, not to ratchet things up or try to be, cause any problem here. It's just I'm not sure there's any way for anyone to hear or see my written complaint. So I wanted to state my complaint here. And I would just like for the noise to stop. My wife works shifts at Oscoda Valley Community Mental Health where she has to sleep during the day. That noise goes continuously. Well, actually, it's worse than that. It's intermittent and high-pitched. There is also in Ordinance 13, there's a reference to noise that says objectionable noise is determined by the Township Board anytime it's of an intermittent nature or high frequency, even if falling below the aforementioned decibel reading, which was 65. In our case, the decibel reading is near 65, and it is high-pitched, and it's intermittent, and it is maddening. It makes it possible for us to enjoy our backyard. We did have a protest sign that we put in my wife's vehicle after we checked with Eric to see that that would be okay. And by his investigation of the ordinances, he said it should be. And when we put the sign up, it was stolen from my wife's vehicle. We did call the police and report it as a theft. They seemed more concerned with, well, you do live in a business district, you should expect noise. And I said, I do expect sound, but I don't expect noise that disrupts our peace and quiet. They weren't that concerned with the theft itself as much as they were, we should be contented with the noise that we're living with. So.
Okay. Well, I can't speak for the whole board, but for me, this is a brand new issue. I wasn't aware of this at all, but you do live in the business district. Are we talking about over here roughly,
Yes.
somewhere?
Directly across the street.
Okay.
And I did give your complaint, I gave a copy to Eric, the police, Mr. Stalker, and I have a copy of it, so.
Thank you very
It has
much.
been,
Very good. We just didn't know if it would,
Yeah.
at the time, you weren't sure there was a
Yeah.
proper place to take it.
yeah, so. But I did show it to anybody I thought that might be able to do something about it, so.
And one of the agenda items that are on the meeting tonight is filling the vacancy you referred to. So we may be able to help you a little more. So, thank you. Okay.
Good luck.
I should elaborate in terms of staff. As Ms. Carrasco indicated, staff was aware of the complaint. I believe we received it last week. This has kind of been an ongoing dialogue, as Mr. Kelly indicates. It's been verbal. We've got something in writing now. However, our deputy zoning administrator was on vacation last week, so we'll be considering the correspondence and the alleged violations at the staff level here in the near future.
Okay. Before you lived in the house, was it vacant or someone else lived there? Or, 'cause
Oh, yeah, it was occupied. A gentleman named Paul Gerstenberger owned the home, and he had two persons that were living inside of the house, making repairs and such during that time frame.
Okay.
How long have you lived in the house? Just a short time?
No, we've since 2006.
Oh,
And Bayo's Nails was not in that beauty salon at the time. She was downtown or something.
yeah,
but-
she used to be right across the street here.
And it's just, we've spoken with, I think her name is Mrs. Hicks, the owner of the salon personally, and she seemed interested in what we had to say, but she doesn't feel compelled that, you know, anything needs to be done, I guess.
Mhm.
And it's just been very, very upsetting to us that nothing has been done.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't mean to cause her any harm whatsoever. I've expressed that to some other people and said I don't want her to lose business. We shop locally on purpose. We do all of our business in town when we can. We don't drive all the way to Alpena to shop. We would like to make sure that things go well there. We just want a reasonable amount of peace and quiet while we live there. That's all.
Now, I don't know if you know this or not, do you know if something can be put around that to kind of stifle the sound a little bit?
I-
mean, I don't
well,
know exactly what I know Eric went and looked at it and
Yeah.
tried to explain it to me, but.
I do have a fence that's up, a privacy fence. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do much good to abate it because her wall is taller than my fence and it just echoes on her wall right up over the top of my fence against our house where our bedroom is. I did build an enclosure myself at one point, went to a great amount of effort to do that. Was gonna put it over myself, not cause any damage to her property, except for then when I researched acetone fumes from nails, they talk about how flammable and explosive they are, and I thought, gosh, I hate to track fumes around a shop vac motor. I might become an arson by accident, and I was only meaning to do something nice.
Yeah.
So I did not put the box over it. I wanted to be able to help and not even have her to have to do anything, but.
Because that's what I thought,
can't.
you know, insulate it somehow if she can't move it to at least keep the sound down to a level, but
Well,
if
I
that's
also
combustible.
researched they make ultra-silent shop vacs.
Oh,
Craftsman makes them and sells them. Sears sells them. So, you know, something like that. They do make systems specifically for nails. They're about $800 though. I researched that on her behalf, and they're not any quieter. It's just that normally they would be inside a facility in a closet or somewhere like that where the customers also wouldn't hear it. So I've tried to find things out for her that would be helpful. I have not had an opportunity to bring up the quiet shop vacs. I don't know. Really, when you go online, it doesn't let you listen, so I don't know how quiet they are. I would rather have it just go away. It's just that just when you get to relax, it pops back on again, like a barking dog. Just keeps
Okay.
going.
Well, Mr. Kelly, we will do what we can. We'll look into this. Like I said, this is, I think, a new thing. Maybe Chris has had some communication with you, but I don't know.
Just recently, really.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Any other cards?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I think most of the audience knows we do have 2 public comment periods. We have another one at the very end. Same drill here, 4 minutes to speak, and so that's coming up at the end. So, consent agenda next. Minutes of our most previous current meeting, July 28th. Anybody see any problem or question regarding the minutes from the 28th of July? Okay. Payment of bills, $126,037.22. Anyone on the board that has a question regarding any of those items? Okay, hearing none. The superintendent has one information item regarding first responders contract and some challenges associated with that. Questions there? We have a meeting on that tomorrow, right?
We do.
Okay. And I'm sure we will have something to give you in the next meeting regarding that, hopefully. So, okay, well, that's the 3 parts of our consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the.
So moved.
Support. The motion to adopt the consent agenda is made by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Gasky?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion has passed. Next, we get into the superintendent's action items. And the first of his items is deals with property and liability insurance renewal of same for 2015.
Thank you. At about this time of year, each year for many moons, I've made inquiry with our insurance agent as to the likely renewal terms for the upcoming year. I do that for purposes of budget planning and also to attempt to establish some direction with the board's blessing as to whether it's appropriate to seek competitive bids or not. The inquiry this year resulted in the communication I've attached to my report from Mr. Paul Olson indicating that there will be no rate increase next year. And I presume that it would be caveated, obviously, in the event we added vehicles or buildings, or for that matter, reduced vehicles or buildings. So on a static coverage level, Paul is essentially saying there will be no increase. That compares to a 2.5% increase this year. So on a year-to-year basis, the proposal appears to be favorable. Having said that, I did not check with our risk management consultant to get his input regarding the prevailing insurance market. Paul did, however, indicate in his communication that there have been several policies they've quoted on, and they remain competitive in the marketplace. So given the fact that we last bid this for the 2013 year, my suggestion to the board is that we acknowledge an intent to renew with Mr. Olson and the power plan for 2015, subject to final confirmation of our rates and in terms of renewal and no increase. with the understanding we would not solicit competitive proposals for coverage in 2015.
Well, what do members of the board think? No increase? Does that sound like a fair deal, or you?
Same coverage, yeah.
Yep.
I make a motion, we accept the rates for
Okay.
this year.
All right. Motion by Ms. Carrasco with support from Mr. Weed that we do accept Mr. Olson's offer for coverage, property and liability insurance for the year 2015. Same rates, with the understanding that if we add properties or vehicles, then they would be reflected. So, okay. Anything further? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gasky?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, Bob's second item deals with an item that we have been talking about a couple times. The final configuration of the splash pad down at Oscoda Beach Park.
Yes. Based on direction at the last meeting, staff has moved forward in trying to finalize the design for the splash pad. And to cut to the chase here, after discussing the matter, the consensus is that the design as it was originally presented to the board is appropriate. So with the board's endorsement, that is the basis upon which we would proceed in implementing the project. There would be no changes. The budget exclusive of on-site plumbing would be $19,123, including the purchase of the anti-slip coating. The Lions Club had indicated that if there were only modest changes, that would not require revisiting the endorsement they had provided for the project previously. Obviously, given the fact there are no changes, we should be in good shape to proceed. And on that basis, they're prepared to pay the 50% share we had talked about previously. However, due to the magnitude of the cost involved, it would seem that we might want to consider establishing a township-generated contract agreement with the vendor. They've given us a service agreement and some fairly extensive documents which I've attached. I am fairly confident in suggesting to the board that some of those provisions would raise some concerns from a legal perspective, not attempting to play lawyer here, but I think there are some concerns that would need to be worked through with our township attorney, and that would lead me to conclude that a separate document may be of benefit. But in either case, in any case, I'm seeking authorization from the board to accept the proposal from My Splash Pad in the amount of $15,873, subject to execution of a contract agreement, which has been approved by our attorney. Assuming we can successfully get to through that step, then I would be seeking authority to purchase the anti-skid material at a cost of $3,250. I note that one of the provisions in their contract is a 50% down payment. I spoke with the vendor earlier today. They seem flexible on the contract terms, but really expressed a preference for that 50% down payment. So if the board or any of the board members have a strong opinion about that, it would probably be a benefit to discuss it at this point.
50% down is somewhat normal.
It is, but we typically do not do that. I mean, it's not an uncommon request. We normally don't do it.
We do not make any down payment or some amount less than 50%.
We strive not to make any, but as per the discussion at the last meeting regarding the windows, we have done it in the past, and we'll do it from time to time, particularly if we've got an enforceable contract agreement. I think it mitigates the risk. But this is an out-of-state vendor.
Is there some way that we can meet the guy halfway and give him a payment when the material arrives or something like that? I mean, I'd hate to see this be a deal breaker, but
Certainly.
Yeah.
I guess I just, if there are concerns, I think he'll be somewhat flexible on the 50%, but he was more concerned about that than it seemed the contract language based on our discussion.
What do board members think? I mean, would 50% or some percentage, 40, 30, when the material gets there? Does that sound?
What's their time frame for the down payment? How soon will the equipment be here?
I think that, well, we didn't discuss when the equipment would be here, but I think what the agreement contemplates is 50% upon execution, right up front.
But is that 10 days, 15, 30? We don't know.
Do not know. Correct.
So are you suggesting that we,
Well, if they
Hang
get our
tough a little
money,
bit.
we want it delivered that week. Or they give us a time frame when they're gonna be delivered, a window, anyhow.
either actual delivery or something specific about, as Martin said, when's it gonna be
When
here?
the time, in the
Something.
window when they're gonna deliver it.
Now, Ms. Richards has indicated that based on her discussion with the vendor, she believes they'll bring all the materials with them when they get ready to do the install. So that probably would be within 4 weeks based on the discussion today. 4 weeks of when we sign the contract would be my guess. He said they're backed up, but I had indicated we would like to have it done in early fall so we could operate it and ensure that it was functional and so forth. So.
Would we have, I forgot what it's called, like we had with the demolition people, if they didn't come through, what is that?
Bonding.
Performance bond?
Yeah, would we have something like that with them, or?
We would not for a project this size typically,
So we really have no recourse if they took the money and ran.
except for the contract.
Well, it's
Right.
only as good as the paper it's written on
Mhm.
sometimes, so.
Why are we not bidding this out to other vendors?
Well, I think the discussion at the board meeting was that we wanted to try and expedite the process, was my impression anyway.
I would agree with that. I mean, the Lions, as I've mentioned before, are kind of itchy to, to get something going.
Should that preclude us from bidding,
No.
ensuring that we are getting the best value for the dollar?
Well, if you want them to pay 50% of it, it might be it's a little bit more than that they're just itchy to get going. They're paying half of it, and I don't know.
But if we're administering the project, I don't think the funds that they're putting into this project should hold us from some sort of proper procedure,
Mhm.
since it is another 10,000 of taxpayer money going into this.
What's the feeling of the board? Do you want to delay bidding? Usually takes how long?
I think it could put getting the project in place this fall in jeopardy if that's the goal. I think you'll be looking at probably 4 to 6 weeks by the time we put together specifications and gave folks an opportunity to bid and then awarded a contract.
Well, this isn't. I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead. You-
How about, I mean, is this the only company we've looked at, or did we get quotes from other companies, not necessarily bids, but at least other quotes? Did we do that?
We did not. We had assumed we would go through a competitive bid process, and again, the discussion sort of, I think, led towards let's get this accomplished this year, and this would be the most effective way to do it.
I
Ian,
don't
do
think
you
it's gonna
have
get done
any-
much cheaper.
Hmm?
I don't think it's gonna get done much cheaper.
Right,
Yeah,
the majority of the cost was actually, well, I mean, there's some in equipment, but
it's
the,
equipment.
you're talking a 300 square foot concrete pad that they're purchasing the concrete from a local supplier, which would be Elmer's, and then making the pad and the plumbing fixtures in there. I mean, I think just looking at other prices, they were very competitively priced, but we didn't price the same exact configuration, no.
I don't think there'd be much difference.
I would rather go off of firm numbers than feeling.
You have contacted other people, or read their literature or something?
I've looked at other literature, yes.
Yeah.
I haven't contacted anybody
Right.
for the same prices, no.
Well, what's the will of the board?
Although I appreciate the Lions donation, I don't like being held captive by them by saying we're not gonna give you the money if you don't do what we want right now. So that's kind of I mean, I'm not slapping them for giving us the money, I'm
Yeah.
just,
Shouldn't we have discussed this 2 weeks ago and we said, go ahead, don't exceed 20,000?
well, I voted
from
no
splash
last
pad.
time anyway, so I'm still
Yeah.
voting no.
So, I mean-
That's still my follow-up no.
And that was 2 weeks after we had had discussion on it previously, which would be at least 4 weeks ago, if not more with the extra week in there. We
Yeah.
kind of put it off over a month when we could have had bids back by now.
I'm guessing your no vote, I'm just guessing your no vote is because you are not really in favor of the whole idea. But we're now talking about should we bid it, that's,
Right.
you know.
That's a whole different. that's
Well,
a-
now that we're talking about having to put down 50% ahead of time and concerns with the contract, language in the contract, bidding this may become in our best interest to ensure that tax dollars are being spent to the best value.
How about, you know, in talking to him with this 50% down, indicate that if you stick with this 50% right now, then we're gonna have to bid it. But if you can be more flexible.
He may relent on that basis. I don't want to portray the picture that he was totally inflexible. I just got the sense that was more important to him than
Yeah.
anything else.
And while we should have caught the bidding prior, like you said, we didn't. But that doesn't preclude us from rushing the project.
Well, anything else? Any other ideas? Do we have a motion one way or another?
I make a motion that we go forward with bids for the project.
Okay. Do we have support for that?
Under the current design that we have in, if I can move pages here. Yeah, in the current design that's been presented to us in this packet.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have support?
Support.
Okay, supported by Ms. Carrasco. That we put this on hold and go out for bids.
Question.
Yeah.
Now, you said they're at least 4 weeks out doing this, being able to work on it.
That's my guesstimate in talking with him, yeah, because he said they were quite busy now, and I had mentioned early fall is our goal. And Labor Day would probably be optimistic, so.
I don't have a problem with 50% thing personally, but I'm just wondering if the Lions are concerned if we were to make the purchase and show but I think it's stupid to get it done at the end of September so we can have something else to winterize and to see if it works for a week when we could start it up in the spring or have it built in May of next year and then see if it worked. I have no problem with this company and going with the design as proposed, but if we're hurrying up to do this, we were hurrying up the first week of July to try to have it done by Labor Day. Well, there's no way in heck it's getting done by Labor Day now. So is this something that we should maybe speak with the Lions further? I mean, I have no problem with this. I appreciate the fact that we've already spoken with them once and maybe explain that we would buy the stuff this fall or put the 50% down, but it's not gonna get put in till May. I don't know, I don't see a reason for doing it for 3 weeks of fall weather and then winterizing it. And if that's where we're at, then would we be ahead to bid it out?
I don't wanna lose the Lions' money, I don't feel hostage to them anyways, but I don't know why we're trying to get this done for the leaves falling on it.
I don't have a problem with your concept, Matt, except that if we can 50% down, we're locked in for that price for next year, so they can't increase it on us
Yeah,
either.
that's what I was thinking. I mean, we
Yeah.
could we're showing in good faith to the Lions Club that we're going to purchase this and proceed, and we're locking in with the company that, hey, put us at the top of your list in the spring.
Right.
But if we do bidding now for the project to be constructed the first part of spring, we will have pricing locked in for that. And it is our legal responsibility to go through a bidding process to ensure we are getting the value for the tax dollars.
I guess I'm concerned we could go through the whole bidding thing, totally negate any completion this year at all. Find out that we can get it for $412 cheaper from somebody else and lose $9,561 because the Lions we've kind of said that we were going to go ahead with it.
Yeah, we've clearly
and
made.
We
the fact
clearly
that we're going
told them
ahead with
that.
it.
We had a chance to talk about bidding. No one said a word about it. I know you can talk about bidding at Christmas time if you want. You have the right to do that, but we've made a little bit of a verbal commitment to them. And like I said, if there's any price difference, if it comes up, like I said, $400, $300, and you lose $9,561 because that is the half that they're willing to pay. That's a gamble that I don't think we have to take.
Then
Now,
we can cancel the project and reapproach it a different way.
Did you speak to them? You were one of the ones that spoke
Yeah,
with them.
yeah.
Do you have a feeling that would happen?
I had a feeling that, like I've mentioned in this board before, that they have given money to both townships. They were quite pleased that Oscoda got right along, on their project, and it's done, it's in place, and they were happy that they could, because they've had said before that we have the money now in 2014. We don't always have a budget where we can make an offer of $10,000, up to $10,000 to one single township. You can't count on that other years. We never know what kind of funding we have, so. But I can't answer your question like, yeah, they're gonna walk away. I don't know, but I just know they're enthused about their ability to improve the community, and they'd like to see some action on it.
But we did talk at the last meeting also that they would be flexible, that if there were delays with the project, that they would be okay with the springtime.
I don't know
And
if
I
they
do
said
agree
that.
with Chris Carrasco's assessment of being strong arm, because the phone call that I received definitely seemed like a strong arm move by the tone that was presented to me
From somebody from the Lions?
from the president of the Lions Club.
Okay.
Even though that we had never talked about this project during our work session for our year's budgeting.
But I do think we gave Bob the direction 2 weeks ago, proceed with this. If anybody on the board has any specs they would like to throw into the pad, let Ann or Bob know, and we were proceeding to come up with a final price for tonight. That's what we discussed 2 weeks ago.
Okay, we have a motion to put this on hold, go out for bids, knowing that this may set aside this whole thing until next spring. And we have a second for that. Is there any other?
The only other comment I would make is, if it's 6 weeks out, if we go with them or not, and it's gonna be October, I say we just put this out until next spring. Because we do not need to make a splash park in the middle of the fall, just to say it's
What if the
done.
Lions don't agree? Then
We've
where's-
already purchased, maybe we've already purchased, the 50% is their $9,600.
But
There's
they
the
wanted
50%.
to get it now. You know,
They-
I mean, I understand that, but if we can't put it in, I would just assume if we're gonna put it in, wait until spring. I agree with you there.
Yes.
But if we're being told, well, the Lions wanted to put it in now, and, you know, that's,
Well, that's maybe not, maybe that's too strong. I mean, they seem reasonable, and they, just as long as you're moving on it, they said something close to that. As long as you're making, you know, you're moving on the thing, if it isn't built in August or something, we can deal with that. But they clearly are enthused about, you know, it's not a threat or anything. They're just enthused about it. They've got some money and they want to help the community. You know, much like the Rotary has done with the band shell and other projects. And when you remember these service organizations, which I am not, but I can see where they're just kind of revved up about doing stuff like this. So, but they're not threatening, like, if you don't do it by such and such a date, we're taking the money away. But they have clearly said that we have that money now. We didn't have it last year. We have it now. We don't know about next year, you know, so.
well, if you don't give it to us, then have they got some other plan that they've got to plan on spending it on if we postpone it? I guess that's
don't
my
know that.
question.
I
You
don't-
keep saying that, you know, they may not have it next year, but, so what are they gonna, can't they set it aside if they plan on using it for the splash park?
Can't speak for the Lions and what they can do, I don't know.
I
But-
don't know either, so.
All right, well, let's have a vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed,
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley,
No.
Mr. Gieske,
No.
Ms. Carrasco, no, Mr. Byer.
You voted no.
I voted no. I'm voting, I'm not in favor of the splash park, period, so.
Okay. Mr. Byer votes no. Okay.
I move we go ahead with the purchase of the splash pad configuration that we directed Bob to come up with 2 weeks ago for a total cost of $19,123.
Support.
Okay, the motion has been made by Mr. Hinckley with support from Mr. Gieske that we do go ahead with this project. And the total cost, $19,123, half of which would be paid by the township. Okay, and that is a $9,500, a little more than that, but so. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Weed,
No.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley,
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, no, Mr. Byer.
Yes. Motion has passed.
Clarification, not to belabor this, but is that subject to a contract document then? Or are we relying on the existing document?
I think you should reason with him. You're talking about the 50% down payment.
Well, and some of the other items, some of the language issues in the contract.
Work with this guy.
Okay,
Lean on him a little bit.
okay.
Okay. All right. Fire truck bids.
Yes, we had talked a couple of meetings ago about soliciting bids for the sale of the 1985 GMC fire truck. The board had endorsed soliciting sealed bids. We did receive one from Northern Truck Repair in the amount of $21.26. That exceeds our minimum bid amount, and therefore the bid is being presented this evening for potential acceptance by the board.
Okay. Any questions regarding the amount? Sound fair to you?
I'll move we accept the bid from Northern Truck for $2,126.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Hinckley, support Ms. Carrasco. Roll call, please.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Weed,
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Byer.
Yes. Motion passed. Fourth item, the police car camera grant issue that we talked about some time ago.
Yes, the board had authorized making a USDA grant for purchasing up to 5 in-car cameras and potentially a computer, desktop computer unit, and we have moved forward in implementing the grant. You might recall that the program, based on the discussion about the farmers market, requires scheduling of a public informational meeting. And given the grant agency's desire to move the process forward, staff have leaned forward, if you will, in publishing the notice I've attached to my report, which calls for that informational meeting or hearing to take place at 7 p.m. on August 25th, the evening of our next regular board meeting. So I'm seeking acknowledgement from the board that placing that meeting on the agenda would be acceptable. If not, I suppose we could cancel the ad, but given where we are in the process, it would seem we'd want to proceed. So again, we're looking for approval to schedule the USDA grant public informational meeting for purchase of in-car cameras at 7 p.m. on August 25th. I note also that, at least preliminarily, it looks like the grant award will be increased to $21,000. I think we talked about $15,000 before. So, good news from our funding source.
So our initial amount was 15, and now you're hearing that the grant could be as high as 21,000.
Correct.
Does that mean if we got that we would buy more cameras or better cameras, or?
It means our local match would be reduced,
Okay.
because I think that the total budget would remain the same.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So we need a motion to have the public hearing on the 25th of August, our next meeting, at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Okay.
Support.
All right. The motion is made by Ms. Carrasco with support from Mr. Gasky. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay. Bob's fifth item is an informational item regarding 2014 fireworks display, which was roughly a month ago.
Yes. I wanted to confirm something I had discovered by way of an invoice from our fireworks vendor in the amount of $10,000. Initially, it appeared as though it could be a mistake, but subsequent investigation led to the vendor confirming that they had in fact provided a $10,000 4th of July fireworks show in our community. You might recall that the budget was supposed to be north of $14,000 based on the donations from members in the community and so forth. I had notified the vendor of that verbally and sent a letter. They provided, in response to my questioning, a letter which is also attached to my report indicating there was an internal miscommunication. The two principals within the company apparently did not communicate on that point. They were very apologetic, but obviously there's nothing we can do about it after the fact. So I suspect that circumstance and fact set will be a subject of discussion for our fireworks working group, which will be meeting in the near future.
So because of their internal problems communicating with each other, they have lost approximately $5,000 worth of business from us.
Correct.
All right. And we will definitely consult with the donation committee about what they want to do with. The money exists and we have it now, right?
We do.
Yep.
And
Okay.
I think that'll be a key point of discussion, is exactly that, what they would like us to do.
If it were nice and simple, they'd say just hang on to it and we'll add it on to next year. Or the other simple solution is give it all back. But the complicated solution in my mind is to give some of it back and keep the rest, depending upon who the donors are and what they want. So this could be a real can of worms, but so it's out of our control. We didn't do this, so. Okay, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
All right, next we go to resolutions and ordinances, and we have a couple of resolutions. We have 2014-14 and about a road improvement fund that we had voted on some time ago this year. So,
Yes, the advisory committee had recommended to the board that we create a dedicated budgetary fund for road improvement expenditures and revenues. This resolution, if adopted, would create fund number 203, which would be our road improvement fund, and the attachment, which would also be authorized, or the amendment, which would also be authorized by the resolution, would create various line items, and the transfer of those line items or the appropriations in those line items from the general fund and into the new budgetary fund number 203, so that any road expenditures henceforth would be made from the new fund. We're essentially capitalizing it through that amendment process.
okay, do we have any questions regarding Bob's explanation of 2014-14? Anybody need any further information? If not, I need a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Okay.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Hinckley with support from Mr. Gajewski that we do adopt Resolution 2014-14. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley.
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski.
Yes.
Ms. Plasko, yes. Mr. Weed.
Yes.
Ms. Byer.
Yes. Next, we go to our second resolution tonight, 2014-15, and this one deals with the idea that we may ask for a fire department millage in the November general election.
Yes. This resolution is a result of discussion from our last meeting wherein we would be seeking to place a ballot initiative before the voters that would create a fire equipment millage for a 5-year term. The amount of the millage would be 0.9 mils. And in particular, I note that the second paragraph on page 2 has the ballot language that the board would be adopting if we move forward. And as we've talked previously, we need to get this to the county clerk right away if we're going to meet the deadline for November.
Okay. Well, we talked about this quite a bit 2 weeks ago, and establishing things like the 0.9 mils, and does it say in here how long this is gonna, 5 years? Yes.
5 years,
Okay.
yep.
Yep, does say 5, yep. Okay,
Bob, is this the same one we made the color copies today?
No, that was in the event that there were questions about the operation and maintenance. This is the
Oh.
original one that was drafted by
Okay.
the attorney.
So how are we gonna know if there's questions about it?
Well, we can certainly talk about that. I guess my thought is if the existing ballot language is considered acceptable from the board's perspective, then we can proceed on that basis. The
Okay.
question that our township clerk has raised is, I had inquired, thought that there might be a potential inquiry relative to the reference to operation and maintenance in the ballot language, from purposes of, from the perspective of potentially confusing folks. So I had put together some alternate language in the event that that was a concern. However, our township attorney has advised that he is more comfortable with the original language. So certainly I can provide the alternate language if the board has question or concern in that regard.
so bottom line, the author of this language is
The township attorney.
township attorney. Okay. Okay, any other questions?
Sorry, I was just trying to clarify. I didn't-
Yep.
Make a motion to go forward with resolution number 2014-15.
Okay.
Support.
Motion has been made that we do go ahead with resolution 2014-15, and that's supported by Mr. Hinckley.
Even with the operation and maintenance there, it's still saying it's for the equipment.
Still very
Correct.
The
specific about
operation and
that.
maintenance for equipment. So now we just need to come up with our list and advertise.
Yep. And the list will have a priority, kind of a pecking order, what's first, what's second. As the originator of the list idea, are you thinking that you might say, if we get this, we will have such and such a piece of equipment, and then have a date to shoot for, or just a pecking order? You need this first, this second, this third.
We should have projection dates, but of course,
Yeah.
anything is flexible based on
Right.
situations that come up. For instance, if there's an issue with the breathing air systems, that might have to get bumped up higher than something else
Sure.
to resolve that emergency.
Maybe like a year 15, 16, 17, I mean, you could have it like that,
Yeah.
but
Are we gonna get this information from our fire chief as to what he thinks the priorities
I
are?
would think, I
or-
think that's kind of what he had a couple
I
weeks ago.
think he
when
already
Al
had
was
in
here,
mind
and,
what
yeah.
he has to get done first.
Yeah, okay.
And like he said, if they have the open house in October, that would be a good time to show off what we have from the 1980s or 1990s,
Mhm.
and that's what we're looking at replacing.
Okay. And you will work with the fire chief regarding this?
I will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes. Motion is passed. Okay, moving on to other, and the first item under other is the Oscoda Ensemble Chamber of Commerce and request regarding Paul Bunyan Festival.
Yes, we've got our annual request from the Chamber relative to the Paul Bunyan Festival. And they're again, considering use of Furtop Field with a number of assistance requests on behalf of the township. And my suggestion to the board is that the use request, be approved with the contingency that we've added in the past, that our assistance would be subject to available personnel and other resources at any given time. There's a fair amount of effort required in here on behalf of the township, so we've always caveated our response based on the folks that we have available to honor the request at any given point in time.
Okay, has there been any problem in the past regarding meeting what we are asking for?
There has not that I'm aware of, but certainly in relation to this event, there have been times at Art on the Beach that I can recall where there were service demands, we didn't have people available. So it happens from time to time.
Okay. Okay, but Paul Bunyan Festival specifically, you don't recall any problem?
I do not.
All right, I would make the motion then that we go ahead with this request.
Support?
Motion made by Byer, supported by Mr. Hinckley, that we do go ahead with the request. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes. Motion passed. Number 2 item is the employment recommendation of a zoning administrator.
Yes, the board had authorized filling this position, but given the way the hiring sequence flowed, I thought it appropriate to bring back a specific recommendation. In this case, I am recommending that Lorna Gansey be employed as our part-time zoning administrator. This is a 24-hour per week position, at least on a routine schedule basis, and this would be at the beginning pay rate for the position. And if approved, she would be able to start Wednesday.
Okay, I think you've all had an opportunity to look over Lorna's resume and associated materials. Anybody have a question regarding? Okay.
So there's no prior government experience, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yep. You feel that she has an adequate knowledge of zoning issues?
I am of the opinion that she can do the job. She will need to spend some time familiarizing herself with the zoning ordinance and the procedures. And,
What training will be provided?
well, in addition to myself, our deputy zoning administrator will be spending time with her and probably attending meetings and sort of handing the ball off over time.
What about classes?
Well,
Is there any training like that in class?
there may be. I can't tell you specifically if there's classes available in the next month or two, but as they become available, certainly we'll take advantage.
What brings her up here from New Jersey, Bob? What brings her up here from New Jersey?
She is residing in the Tawas area now. She has family there.
Oh,
Any other comments or questions? Well, last week's vote wasn't unanimous, but last week's vote was we would let Bob review the candidates and pick who he thought was the best fit. And I still stand by that, you know, as far as my vote.
Well, I think give everybody a chance, whether they got qualifications or not, that may be,
As long as we have a strong training program for this, because this is a position that can really make or break this township. If it's not done properly, it can really hurt us.
there might be some online training. I know we have that online for our elections
And
and
the
stuff.
MTA offers classes, so
Mhm.
as
Right.
long as that is, you know,
So is the
here's
will of,
protected classes, this is when you are going kind of thing, and then I will be okay with that.
and it is the will of the board that we would spend a little money to send her to some of these classes? Is
Oh,
that-
sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
very
Okay.
important.
Yeah,
Okay.
education is great on these things.
Okay.
this is a new book for her, so
Yeah.
it could really benefit us if she learns that their
Mhm.
dots are I's and crosses her T's.
Well, she can learn a lot from our, what did you call her, our deputy? Zoning? She can learn a lot from her.
Technically.
That's what it says in the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion and it is supported, I believe. Is that right?
Did we?
I'll
don't
make
think
the
so.
motion that
All
we hire Lorna Gansey as our zoning administrator.
Support.
Mr. Hinckley with support from Mr. Gieske. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Gasky?
Yes.
Mr. Fire?
Yes. Motion carried. Number 3 item, snowmobile ORV trail operating agreement.
Yes, we have received a request from the county that we extend this operating agreement for an additional year. There are 3 years left on the agreement, and this would be narrowing that down to 2 if we move forward. The draft letter in the packet is patterned after the ones we've used in the past. I do point out, however, that the scope of the agreement has changed over time. Used to be for 3 sites, McQuaig, Footsite, and Ratliff. We're down to Ratliff only at this point. But they have to, apparently they being the county, submit documentation to the state to validate that everybody is still on board, and they're eager to get our signed documentation as soon as possible.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with this or question? Okay. I would make the motion that we go ahead with the snowmobile ORV trail operating agreement.
Support.
Motion by Wire and support by Weed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion carried. Fourth item is a division of a platted lot on Loud Dam Road.
Yes, and I have provided on the board table colored drawings to make it a little bit clearer what we're trying to do here. In the case of the Loud Dam Road request, there is a parcel on lot 21, basically compromising half of that lot, 50 feet by 100 feet, that is being split off and conveyed to the neighboring property, so you have close to 2 mirror images of the adjoining properties when all is said and done. So you have a desire on the part of the owner to sell and the neighbor to purchase. And staff has reviewed the applicable criterion and recommending that approval be provided.
Okay. Well, these things are usually gone through all the proper channels, so people have agreed that they need to be in the chain, right?
Right.
Okay. Motion,
So moved.
Support.
moved by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley. That we do go ahead with the division of a platted lot on 4384 Loud Dam Road. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, last item under other is a similar type of thing, land division. This is parcel 062020 200 001-50.
And in this case, we're talking about vacant acreage in a scenario wherein the property was sold prior to a lot split being requested and that oversight being discovered after the fact. So the proposed split would correct the oversight, and you'll see that essentially the 100-acre parcel or close to it's being split in half.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding this one?
How did this slip through?
It's sold out in the marketplace, and then when the sale documentation was provided to the assessor's office, they recognized that the lot split hadn't been requested and brought it to the property owner's attention.
And when did the sale take place?
I believe about a year ago, but I am not certain.
Okay, because here it shows something about 2011, so that's
Yeah.
why.
Well, it's possible it goes back that far. It may have taken a while for it to surface.
And that was discovered by our assessor's office.
Yes, and apparently there was a miscommunication wherein the purchaser thought that the seller had dealt with it. And,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So they were aware.
Well, at least one of them was.
Well, okay.
But this is something that some people may not be aware of, that you have to go through this process to split property. So,
Right, right.
yeah, I mean, it's an understandable thing. You would think that you'd have to do all that to.
They
sell
must
part
have
of your
done
land.
this without a real estate person involved.
But there still needs to go through the title company.
Yeah.
Why were the title clear?
Would it have to
I
go through a title
would-
company if it was just a, Jim, I'm gonna sell you half of my lot here?
Or a land contract, or, don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
I would not want to speculate on that question.
Well, it'd be good to know what happened here with the process, so that somehow that could be prevented in the future, in case it comes to a point where a land division is not possible, the buyer is not in a predicament.
Can-
Yeah, a little investigation, like how did this slip through the cracks, so. Okay, should we approve this fix?
I'll move we approve.
All right,
Support.
moved by Mr. Hinckley with support from Mr. Weed that we do go ahead with this land division. Roll call, please.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, we are to the second public comment. As I mentioned before, if anyone has something they wish to say, you have 4 minutes. No card needed. Anybody? Okay.
Robert Tazier, I'm on Hillcrest Drive. A lot was said tonight about the Lions Club, which I am a member.
Okay.
I just would like to say, the Lions Club motto is, we serve. So, however the money is gonna be spent, that $10,000 will be spent. Whether it's for the splash pad or for another worthwhile thing. 100% of the money we raise goes back into the community. I can't speak for the board of the Lions Club, but I can't see where they would want to strong arm anybody. It's just not their style. Money is available now, I know that. The splash pad is an exciting thing for us. We would like to see that, but we don't want to see money wasted either. So the best way that the money could be spent for the Lions Club, we're in favor of that. I think there just may be a little bit of misunderstanding about what the real wishes and desires are all the way around. Maybe a Lions Club. Maybe the president should be brought in and speak if right at the board. I mean, I think what they're looking for is a commitment that that money is going to be spent for the splash pad, and if it can't be done this year, if it's not foreseeable that it can be used this year, then I don't think they would want to spend the money to do that. I can't, like I said, I can't speak for them, but I think they're looking for a commitment that this will be done. And it's not a matter of that $10,000 is available now. We have so much money that we hold over for emergencies. And remember, we go out there and we sell the raffle tickets. We do all the things to raise that money, and we promise the communities that you give to us, we give back to you 100%. That's what we do. So I think if the board would just let the Lions Club know, okay, we're committed, we're gonna do this, I think that's probably gonna meet the criteria that they had put down. Because if I remember correctly, originally they said they wanted to have a commitment up to $10,000, but did they put a specific date on it this year? They said they wish they could.
Yes.
You know.
When the president called me, he said he wanted it done this year,
Well-
or they would pull the money.
Well, then apparently there is another project that they're looking to put back into the community. So, I think it's been dragging on for like a month now about, and there's $10,000 floating out there that was saying, here, do this. And I don't know who's dropping the ball, but I don't think it's the Lions Club. You know, that's my comment. So hopefully you can get it done this year, and hopefully the money, if not, the money will be available next year. But you know, it's a service community. I don't like the terms, you know, strong arming and you know, I'm a guy that's out there selling them raffle tickets in the rain. I want to see that money used. You know, that's, I think, and I can't speak for all the Lions Club. I'm speaking for myself.
I understand.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Your name again is?
Robert Tazier.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Anyone else? Okay, any board comments?
Me,
Okay,
I'd just like to thank all my election workers who did an outstanding job this year, all the voters who came in and voted in person and through absentee. Everything ran relatively smooth, and again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for running a smooth operation.
Welcome.
okay, any other board comments? All right. Then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. We are adjourned.